Woman with baby storms into church during Mass and says the child is the priest's for all to hear. The choir was singing softly as Emma walked down the church aisle with the baby in her arms, and the murmur snapped into a sharp gasp. She lifted the child high, like someone raising proof, and the air inside the church grew thick with uneasy whispers and hurried prayers. "You promised you'd recognize our child, Father, and now you pretend you don't even know me," Emma shouted, her voice torn but fearless, clutching the baby to her chest. "Silence, and show respect for the house of prayer," Father Thomas said, his face set, coming down the steps of the altar with firm, cold strides. "Respect means owning what you did," Emma answered, hands shaking, eyes wet and locked on him. "Or are you going to deny the nights you made me swear to keep it a secret?" A low buzz swelled across the pews. "A child. A priest can't have a child," a woman murmured, hands to her face. "That's a grave sin. A scandal," another whispered, squeezing her rosary beads between her fingers. "If it's true, he can't stay on the altar," a man said, shaking his head in disbelief. "Evil has come to profane the Lord's altar," Father Thomas declared without blinking, looking at the faithful as if asking for protection. "Don't let the enemy use this woman. Get her out of here now." "Don't touch me," Emma said, turning her body to shield the baby. "I'll leave when he looks at me as the father of my child, not as a stranger." "Let her walk out with dignity," a man in the back bench said, impatience contained. "No one wants a scene in front of a child." "Don't let her confuse you," Thomas declared, hand to his chest and voice controlled. "This is slander, and I won't allow the temple to be used this way." "You used to call me your home, remember?" Emma asked, chin trembling. "Or does your memory only work when it suits you?" "Enough," Thomas said with a cool firmness. "Keep this up, and you'll be staining your own life, and your son's." "You did the staining when you disappeared," Emma shot back, anger clean and clear. "I'm done hiding." Still breathing hard, Emma backed toward the door, with the baby tucked close, holding Father Thomas's gaze until the last step of the staircase. She walked out of the church amid whispers and hard stares, but she didn't leave. She hovered in the courtyard, hearing the comments slice the air like knives. "A priest with a child? That goes against everything we were taught. If she's lying, she's cruel, but if it's true, he deceived us all." And when the bustle faded, Emma slipped back in through a side door and headed straight for the sacristy. The smell of incense seemed to hold the air in place. She stood waiting, face flushed from crying, until the door finally opened. Father Thomas entered with slow steps and stared at her in silence, eyes hard and unblinking, as if none of what had just happened carried any weight at all. "You came into my house after my father's funeral, saying I needed comfort," Emma said, voice low and wounded. "You stayed, you loved me, you promised you'd take care of the pregnancy, and then you vanished." "I offered spiritual care," Thomas replied with polished coldness. "You mistook pastoral affection for something else. I got confused when you said you could only breathe when you were with me, and that God understood," Emma said, anger burning. "I got confused when you asked me for secrecy and held me until I fell asleep." "You're mixing pain with fantasy," Thomas said, gaze hard. "If you insist, you'll drown your life, and your son will grow up as the child of a lie." "Don't threaten me with my son," Emma said, eyes blazing. "I just want him to have a father, not a man in a collar pretending he doesn't know his own blood." "Leave now and forget this," Thomas demanded, tension roughening his voice. "I won't give in to blackmail." "Blackmail is the silence you demanded of me," Emma answered, shoulders trembling. "I'll keep talking until someone listens." Emma left the sacristy without looking back, tears falling not from shame, but from the fury of seeing him repeat the same calm he'd used to seduce her. The next day, out on the street, the stroller turned into corner gossip. Emma walked in silence, but heard a voice behind her. That's her, the woman who says she had the priest's child. Her chest tightened. Without the strength to answer, she just lowered her head and pushed the stroller, sorrow heavy in her eyes. That night, the front door flew open and Natalie, Emma's sister, came in with scared eyes and a voice already set to judge. "Stop this for the baby's sake," Natalie said, hands firm on the back of a chair. "You're standing up against a man of God, and that's going to come down on you like punishment." "I'm not trying to destroy anyone," Emma replied, calm but wounded. "I just don't want the father of my child to deny his own blood." "You don't understand the weight of the sin you're provoking," Natalie said, fear dressed up as sternness. "It's not just against him, it's against our faith, against everything we were taught since we were kids." "Look," Emma said, opening a box and taking out a worn rosary. "He gave me this the day he heard the baby's heartbeat." "That proves nothing," Natalie shot back, voice shaking. "That's a holy object, and you're turning it into a weapon to humiliate the altar." "There's a little slip of paper inside," Emma said, opening the crucifix with trembling fingers. "It says, 'For the three of us.'" "Hide that right now," Natalie demanded, slamming the cabinet door. "Don't use something sacred to condemn a priest." "I'm only asking for the truth to be told," Emma said, holding the rosary to her chest. "If you keep this up, I'll take the baby myself," Natalie threatened, voice breaking. "He can't grow up branded as the illegitimate child of a priest." "You are not taking my child from me," Emma said, a firmness that surprised them both. Natalie fell silent for a few seconds, her face split between anger and tears, then turned and stormed out, the door slamming hard. The echo hung in the room like a warning, and Emma stood there, hugging the baby, heart racing into the space her sister left behind. The silence didn't last. Minutes later came another sound, a hesitant knock. Emma took a deep breath, wiped her face with her sleeve, and went to the door. When she opened it, a young man stood there, holding his gaze down. "My name is Robert," he said, avoiding her eyes. "I used to work in Father Thomas's sacristy." "I don't remember you," Emma answered cautiously, the baby steady in her arms. "Why did you come to my door?" "Because I feel complicit in the silence," Robert said in a low voice. "I used to see Father Thomas slipping out at night along the side of the church, always heading toward your street." "Did you really see that?" Emma asked, heart pounding. "Or did you just hear about it?" "I saw it," Robert admitted, shame in his eyes. "One night curiosity got the best of me. I followed him from a distance and watched him go into your house. He stayed for a while, then left like nothing had happened." Emma lifted a hand to her mouth, chest burning. "As he was leaving, he saw me," Robert went on, lowering his head. "He didn't say a word, just stared. The next day I was let go from the sacristy without any explanation." "My God," Emma murmured, not sure whether she was shaking from fear or relief. "You're confirming what I've been trying to prove. I don't want to pretend I didn't see anymore," Robert said, voice steady despite his nerves. "And there's more. I found something." "What did you find?" Emma asked, stepping closer. "His personal notebook," Robert said, pulling a battered notebook from his backpack. "I managed to grab it before I left the day they fired me. There's a page with your address and the phrase door open late at night, dated from that time." "That's his handwriting," Emma said, voice muffled by shock. "I recognize every letter." "It's not an official document, I know," Robert hurried on, "but it's his memory on paper, his habit of crossing the night to see you." "Thank you for not looking away," Emma said, eyes misty. "I thought I was alone." "You're not alone," Robert replied with shy firmness, "but it'll be hard." Emma fell quiet for a moment, staring at the notebook as if it were an open wound. She barely slept that night, reliving each memory. The next morning, still with her heart racing, She took a deep breath and went to find Kimberly, who ran the church choir and had always treated her kindly. "I need you to hear me without cutting me off," Emma said plainly. "Then you can decide whether to turn your back on me." "I always listen to you," Kimberly answered, attention serious. "Go ahead." "You know what happened at Mass the other day between me and Father Thomas," Emma said, eyes glassy. "I want to show you I'm not lying or stirring up trouble like everyone's been saying. I have 2 voice messages saved on my phone." "Let me hear them," Kimberly said, hand trembling. "This one," Emma said, pressing play. "He used to sing this to calm me at the start of my pregnancy." A soft whisper spilled from the phone. "That's his voice," Kimberly said, turning pale. "And that melody, I've heard Father Thomas hum that same tune inside the church." "I'm not making anything up," Emma said, a thread of relief in her voice. "I just want to stop talking to myself." "Come to my place tonight," Kimberly said suddenly, decision firm. "I'll call a small group who trusts me to listen to you." "Are you sure?" Emma asked, afraid to expose herself even more. "That could cost you." "I'm sure," Kimberly replied, eyes steady. That night, Kimberly's living room filled with a few extra chairs, glasses of water on the table, and heavy looks of expectation. "I'm not here to cause a scene," Emma said, meeting each face. "I'm here to speak and to show what I've kept." "Then show us," an elderly woman said, voice trembling with curiosity and fear. "This is Father Thomas's personal notebook," Emma said, opening to a page. "Here he wrote my address and the phrase door open late at night, dated from that time. And this is the rosary he gave me the day he heard the baby's heartbeat for the first time. Inside the crucifix, there's a little strip of paper where he wrote, 'For the 3 of us.' And I also kept audio messages, him singing to me early in the pregnancy." "I want to hear the audio," a man said, hands folded as if in prayer. "Listen," Emma said, pressing play, and the whisper poured into Kimberly's room. "It's him," Kimberly said firmly, standing up. "I'd already heard these recordings, and I can confirm in front of everyone that it's Father Thomas's voice, and the same melody he used in church." "That could be a trick," a woman declared, jumping to her feet in outrage. "Evil can mimic voices to deceive the faithful." "A trick is making a woman bear alone what she didn't do alone," Emma answered, pain plain in her voice. "Come here," Kimberly said, hugging Emma tight. "No one here is going to demand your silence." Word of the informal meeting spread without anyone needing to share it, and the altar felt the tremor the next day when Thomas climbed it with a folded paper and damp eyes. "I need to talk about wounded women who want to drag others into the abyss of their pain," Thomas said, voice wavering. "I forgive those who accuse me because I've learned to forgive." "He's trying to flip the script," someone whispered from the front pew, heads nodding in agreement before anyone could think. "My intentions have always been pure," Thomas declared, laying a hand on his chest. "And so there's no doubt I brought someone who has known me since my first breath." An older woman stood up slowly, walked to the front, and took the microphone with trembling hands, facing the crowd in silence for a few seconds. "I'm his mother," the woman said. Her name was Melissa, voice fragile, gripping the mic with effort. "I raised him in the faith, watched every step since he was a boy, and I can say before God that my son has always been pure. He gave his entire life to the altar, and it isn't fair to stain him with accusations." "That's a low blow," Kimberly murmured beside a column, while applause flared like suppressed fireworks. "Do you see?" Emma asked, heart clenched, staring at the front row. "I see," Kimberly answered through gritted teeth, "but this isn't over." Emma scanned the front row, hands raised, heads nodding approval, and then her stomach flipped when she recognized a familiar face. Natalie, her sister, who had judged her so many times, was up front, gripping Melissa's hand tightly. The gesture looked like a pact against her. The service ended in applause and muddled prayers, but Emma walked out without looking back, heart crushed. The way home was silent, just the sound of footsteps and the weight of what she'd seen. Later, with the house swallowed by darkness, Emma lay down without closing her eyes, chest burning. Sleepless, she made a decision. She would speak to Melissa away from the altar. "I just want to talk," Emma said when the door opened, and Melissa's tired eyes took her in. "Come in," Melissa answered with a small gesture. "Thank you," Emma said, sitting carefully. "I'm not here to fight. I want to talk and hear the truth." "I've heard a lot these last few days," Melissa said softly. "And it isn't the first time rumors have circled my son. He's always been brilliant. People look at him like he's more than human. But he's always been impossible too. He never listens to anyone." "Impossible, yes," Emma said, bitterness contained. "Because he thinks he can be a father in secret and a saint in public." "Let him live out his calling," Melissa pleaded, sadness urgent in her voice. "Don't take that from him." "I don't want to take any calling away," Emma said, eyes steady. "I want to stop him from playing father in the shadows." "You're hurt and you want answers," Melissa sighed. "But people only see sin or holiness. They never see the middle." "People understand love and abandonment," Emma replied, hard-edged. "And I know both too well, because I was loved in the dark and abandoned in the daylight." Emma left Melissa's house with her chest on fire. The walk home was slow until she finally stepped inside. She tried to breathe, but soon there were knocks at the door, almost timid. When she opened it, a woman stood on the threshold, clutching her purse to her body and avoiding Emma's eyes. "My name is Sharon," the woman said, head down. "I need to talk to you about what happened between you and Father Thomas." "You knew him?" Emma asked, heart in her throat. "I lived the same thing years ago," Sharon answered, voice trembling. "Promises, his hand on my belly, and then guilt shoving me away." Emma stared at her in silence, chest racing. "And you expect me to believe that?" Emma asked, wary, hugging her baby. "I don't even know who you are." "I didn't come here for pleasure," Sharon said, eyes brimming. "I know how much it hurts to be treated like you made it all up." Emma drew a breath, torn between throwing her out and hoping she wasn't alone. "If what you're saying is true," Emma said, voice shaking, "show me. I need something to prove it." "I have a photo," Sharon said, pulling an old picture from her purse. "He's not in his collar. He's laughing right next to me." Emma took the photo gently, eyes wet, lingering on Thomas's carefree face. "Melissa, his mother, told me that in another parish there'd been a girl who disappeared after rumors started," Emma said, voice heavy, eyes still on the photo. "That was you, wasn't it?" "It was," Sharon confirmed, tears held back. "It was you," Emma whispered, the ground dropping under her. Then she raised her phone. "Can I take a picture of this with my phone?" "You can," Sharon said, handing it over with trembling fingers. "But please, don't tell anyone my name." "I promise I won't drag you into this," Emma said, voice tight. "I'm sorry I didn't believe you at first, and thank you for not leaving me alone." In the days that followed, Emma could barely step outside without feeling the whispers, and Kimberly, who visited whenever she could, wasn't sleeping either. The community's silence was suffocating, and they knew keeping it all between them wouldn't change anything. "Let's hold an open meeting in the parish hall," Kimberly said, decisive. "This time, with way more people than the little gathering at my place, to hear everyone with no tricks." "He'll try to stop it," Emma warned, "but I'll go." "I will too," Robert said, firm. On the appointed day, the parish hall smelled of polished wood and anticipation, and Thomas showed up in his clerics, even after asking everyone not to meet. "I came to defend myself," Thomas said, voice firm, polished. "I'm not afraid of the truth." "I'll speak first," Emma said, an envelope of memories in her hand. "Go on, then," a man said, arms crossed, impatient. "This is the rosary he gave me," Emma said, holding it up. "On the day he first heard the baby's heartbeat. Inside the crucifix, there's the slip of paper where he wrote, 'For the three of us.'" "That's made up," Thomas replied with a cold smile. "A wounded person can build castles of lies." "This is his notebook," Emma said, showing the page with her address and the note. "It's the same handwriting he used on the notes he left in the sacristy. I found that notebook the day I was pushed out of the sacristy," Robert said, stepping forward. "And I saw with my own eyes the father going into her house at night and leaving later like nothing had happened." "Must be forged," Thomas said, disdain practiced. "This is a photo a woman secretly gave me," Emma said, holding it up. "She was deceived by Father Thomas, too. He's here without his collar, smiling next to her, promising everything and then vanishing." "I don't know that woman," Thomas declared, eyes hard. "Anyone can doctor a picture." "Oh, Dan, there's more," Emma said, pulling her phone from her pocket. "I kept recordings, him calling me in the middle of the night and singing to calm me down. Listen." She hit play, and the whisper filled the hall, the same soft tune that seemed to pass through walls. "Turn that off," Thomas demanded, posture still erect. "You have no right to expose private matters." "I have every right to show what you hid," Emma said, hand steady on the phone. Silence fell, heavy, then whispers rippled among the faithful. "That's his voice," Kimberly said, eyes fixed on Thomas. "There's no denying it." "That's digital manipulation," Thomas said, his polish cracking. "You're being deceived." "Look at me and say that voice isn't yours," Emma pleaded, a knot in her throat. "Delete that now," Thomas snapped, sharp, authoritarian, lunging for the phone. The command sliced his victim act clean in two. "Enough. Nobody lays a hand on anybody," a man said, raising his hands. "But the mask is off." "I don't wear any mask," Thomas shouted, face hardening. "You're blinded by rage." "Today everyone heard the truth," Emma said, chest heaving. The hall split into whispers, prayers, protests, and more than any applause. What hung in the air was a crack nobody could put back together. The murmur wouldn't die down. Thomas drew a breath and looked over the hall like a man gauging a fire that had gotten out of control, his cassock clinging to him, his practiced poise still on display. "I'll step away for a while and go on retreat," Thomas said with measured solemnity. "I need to pray and discern, away from attacks and confusion." "Is that running away or repentance?" Kimberly asked, bitter irony in her voice. "I'd rather call it prudence," Thomas said with a tired smile. "I trust peace will return." "I ask for prayers, and I forgive those who've hurt me," Thomas added, hand to his chest. News of his departure spread like cold water to the face of the town, and for a moment Emma leaned her forehead to the window and let out the breath she'd been holding since her first shout in church. "Is it over?" Emma asked herself softly, sitting on the floor with the baby asleep. "Is it finally over?" "Don't let your guard down," Kimberly said over the phone, careful. "He knows how to flip the table." "I want to believe there's no going back," Emma answered, hope worn thin. "I need a truce." The truce was short. The next week, the bell sounded different, like an announcement, and the square woke to a crowd with flowers and promises. "He's back!" a parishioner shouted, thrilled. "Back to forgive those who hurt him." "They learned nothing," Kimberly murmured beside Emma, hands trembling. "Look at this." "I returned to heal wounds," Thomas said, climbing the altar to applause. "I forgive my accusers, and I'm here to serve." "Forgive what, Thomas? The truth?" Emma asked, voice tight but clear. "Don't you feel shame?" "I turned pain into an offering," Thomas answered, looking past her. I continue my calling. This is a cheap performance, Kimberly said, anger held in check. They're treating him like a martyr. That's what destroys me, Emma said, voice breaking. The truth means nothing when everyone prefers the lie. Then we need a proof that shuts every mouth, Kimberly said, steady. Something no one can deny. I can't live on memories and objects alone, Emma said, breathing deep. I need proof that shows, without a doubt, he's the father. DNA, Kimberly whispered, decided. The lab report speaks for itself. That's a great idea, Emma said, eyes wide. But for that, I need something of his. An object. Anything. I can get it, Kimberly said, no hesitation. I have access to the sacristy. I know where he keeps personal things. You'd risk your position for me, Emma asked, disbelief and gratitude tangled. I'll risk whatever it takes, Kimberly replied, firm. If that's what the truth needs, we'll do it. It could be dangerous. What if someone sees you? Emma warned, heart racing. Let me worry about the danger, Kimberly said, a tense half smile. Then Kimberly got to work. During a gathering with people crowding around Thomas, she slipped into the sacristy. She walked carefully to where the mugs were still damp. She picked one, sure it was his, and put it away safely. Then she found the toothbrush she knew belonged to Father Thomas, and took that too. Her heart pounded, but her face stayed calm as she crossed the corridor again and left without drawing attention. When she handed the items to Emma outside, the trembling turned into nervous laughter, and the two hugged like survivors of a crossing. We did it, Kimberly said, chest rising and falling. Now it's on you. I'm taking this in today, Emma said, focus cooling her voice. I'm not waiting one more day. At the lab, Emma dropped off the materials, filled out the forms, and walked out with a receipt in hand, knowing all that was left now was to wait. The days stretched out too long. Each night brought the same question, which she tried to push away with a sip of water. Days later, the phone rang. Emma answered. A neutral voice confirmed the test result was ready for pickup. She called Kimberly, and together they went to get the envelope. In the lab's office, the paper weighed more than anything they had ever carried. Emma held it tight, hands trembling. She broke the seal. Her eyes ran down the lines until they landed on the sentence that left no doubt. Conclusive genetic compatibility for paternity. They looked at each other in silence. Kimberly brought a hand to her mouth. Emma let out a muffled sob and hugged her baby tight. Now it isn't word against word, Kimberly said, tears in her eyes. Now it's the truth on paper. The next Sunday, Emma climbed the church steps early, the envelope heavy as stone, her heartbeat begging for quiet. Today's the day, Emma whispered. I'm right here with you, Kimberly said, appearing at her side. Thank you, Emma answered, squeezing her friend's hand. Thomas came through the courtyard with steady steps, the gait of a man who'd always found support in the crowd, and as he tried to pass, Emma's voice cut the corridor like a clean blade. Thomas, Emma said, firm enough to carry. Look at me. I have nothing to say to you, Thomas answered without slowing. Step aside. I have something to say to everyone, Emma said, raising the envelope, and I'm not moving. Another spectacle? A parishioner asked, impatient. We came here to pray. This is the last time I stand here without being heard, Emma said, breath under control. I'm going to read a document that proves everything I've said. No such document exists, Thomas retorted, trying to push through, face hard. It does, Emma said, tearing the envelope open with steady hands. Then read it if you've got the nerve. Thomas sneered, chin high. Conclusive genetic compatibility for paternity, Emma read aloud, each word a hammer. That's the result of the DNA test between Father Thomas and my son. Silence crashed over everything, heavy, almost solid, and Thomas froze on the step, unable to move or open his mouth. "Say something," Kimberly said, voice shaking with anger and emotion. "I," Thomas murmured, mouth open, no voice coming out. "There's no shouting, no police," Emma said, wounded but steady. "There's only the community seeing what they didn't want to believe." Some started yelling, calling Thomas a liar. Others booed. Some raised their voices, demanding he step down from the altar. It wasn't violence, it was reckoning, as if every swallowed word over the years came out at once. Pale and paralyzed, Thomas couldn't answer. He came down the steps slowly, opened a side door, and walked out alone, without touching anyone. Little by little, the community moved. Kimberly walked to the front and declared she wouldn't sing again while there was a lie on the altar. Natalie, in tears, asked her sister for forgiveness and held the baby as if giving a place back to him. In the days that followed, the official statement confirmed what everyone already knew. He'd been removed from his position and had left town in silence. "Now there's room," Kimberly said beside Emma. "Room for those who never got to speak." "Then let's fill it," Emma replied, steady, holding her son and the rosary in her pocket. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, give it a like, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. See you in the next story.